Welcome to the Vision to the Point podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Tuesday. You're here for a podcast number 2 of the day, where just recently I had to go into a deep dive of Tom Brady, obviously one of the greatest professional athletes of all time, retiring after 22 great seasons in the National Football League. So that's up on the podcast feed right now if you want to listen to that one. But tonight we had a Yadis last week because we just scheduling was a mess up for both of us, and but we're gonna get into Sneaky Pete episodes 3 and 4 tonight. But it's been a minute, so Shay, how are things been? And you survived the latest snowstorm.
Yeah, just barely. I got hit pretty hard, but no. Last week was a little bit of a F around with. Of course, I was home and had some stuff going on, inner circle. But you had the embellishment call at the lady in Costco, and I think the listeners deserve a real reason why we couldn't make the pod last week, because it's quite a story, to be honest.
Yeah,
and it involves COVID, which is your favorite subject. I know you love it.
Yeah. So yeah. So everybody listening, last week, it's about 2:00, and my father and I, and we're both very patient men, I'm going to add that at the beginning, we go into Costco, we get a bunch of things for the store, and we're getting out there, make great time, despite it being like a zoo in there. And we're on our way out, going to go see the people that, scribble on your paper, even though I think it's pointless because they don't even look, but that's another story for another day. And we're walking, we're passing where you can buy like the hot dogs and whatnot, if you've been to the Costco in Moncton, and the line just stops. And we're like, okay, what? This is Costco. Like, you don't stop lines here. But this woman had gone, like you said, soccer player, full Diego Maradona. And she's on the floor screaming, having a panic attack. And me and my father can't really see her, but she's off in the distance screaming about who knows what. And she's having a panic attack. Somebody said, oh, she's having a heart attack. So we're just like, oh, Jesus. So about 15 minutes has passed. We're like, okay, we figure out she's okay, but she's having a panic attack. She says she needs medical treatment. So I'm just sitting there fuming. And we're like, well, can we just walk past her? Like, they got her off. She's still in the middle of the floor. And we're like, can we just move past? We'll get one of the people, scribble, get the hell out of there. No. Well, because she's in the floor, people would have to go each way, and that would be a COVID violation. Now, for everybody's reference, we were in Costco. Costco is basically where COVID began because there's so many people in there. Couldn't go to a gym last week, but you go to Costco. So we are there for over 2 hours waiting to get out. There is a lineup of 300 plus people waiting to get out of this place. It was a full-on Mack truck of an event. This guy, this grizzled vet, his name had to have been Rick or Hank or Tom. He had a mustache and it was yellow. And he was just, what is he doing? Get off the floor. And this woman, she's really sick. She's really sick. She doesn't look sick to me. And it's just this ongoing spat between this man who could, quite frankly, give a shit about COVID or the well-being of this woman, and this woman who is probably a Karen at heart. So we entered at 2:10. We left. We got outside of Costco shortly after 4:30. That was my day.
Oh, yeah. I received a panic call. Anyone who was, maybe looking forward to the podcast last week, please try and get in touch with this woman and, please give the complaints to her. Yeah. No, in all seriousness, just some rescheduling stuff, but I that story just cracks me up every time. I could just see you and your father getting more and more boiled, just standing in line with Rick from Red Deer, the guy with the stash. But no, yeah, just another way COVID has kind of brought your life down another dash. Just keeps giving you jabs in every which way, which
yeah,
hilarious.
literally and figuratively, the old jab. But we survived it. We're back this week, and thank God, because that was a painful experience. But yes, we're back tonight. We're talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Sneaky Pete. And for people that don't remember, give you a little bit of a kind of a wraparound here. The story's about our main character, Pete, aka Marious. If you hear us call him Pete throughout the show, that's what they call him, but his name is Marious, but Pete goes well too. Marious had a cellmate named Pete, and he didn't like him at first, but he heard his story and he said, maybe I could use this to my advantage. Marious owed this rich tycoon $100,000, and he used that alias to eventually sneak off, get to Bridgeport, meet up with Pete's family, and now he's living with this fake family, trying to learn the business while also rob from them so that he can get his brother to escape from Vince, who is played by Bryan Cranston. So it's an interesting storyline. First couple episodes, we see him, they work through a case. He's worried he's going to be spotted. But what we did see in the first episode, Shay, is that he is very much a con man. He went into a bar. This guy was talking about a great hockey player and a quote. It was a Wayne Gretzky quote. And we see that he gets a visit from one of Pete's old friends. And this guy is a cop, but he has a beef to pick with Marious because he really took away one of his eyes, because it's never been the same since he got the fake gunpowder in the eye multiple years before.
Yes, Officer Winslow is we'll say a guy. He's under Vince. He's kind of like Vince's lieutenant within the force, we'll say. And like you said, Pete didn't have a real gun, but he shot a fake gun, which still does quite a bit of damage. As we can see, this guy's eye, it's not lost, but it's got some deformative to it. The skin's kind of effed around it. So he's got a bone to pick with Marious. And he goes in here and he's looking for him, and he gets the information. This guy that we talked about with the Wayne Gretzky, loves Montreal. He goes, yeah, that guy, like I sent my police report in there quite a while ago. No one's followed up. And this guy's like, well, I'm here to find him. And he shows him a picture and he says, where was he going? Where did you show him to go? And he says, oh, he was going to Bridgeport, Connecticut. And, the guy, who the hell goes to Bridgeport, Connecticut? And so someone who's trying to lay low. So that's our guy. We know the premise of this episode is really Winslow trying to find Marious in Bridgeport, and throughout the episode, basically driving around Bridgeport area, kind of checking in with people, dust people, police, trying to find where he's at, because clearly Vince wants to know where he is.
Yeah, and it's kind of this, you don't really know if he's doing it for Vince or if he's doing it for revenge, because obviously Vince needs his money, but I don't think, like you said, the officer really cares that much. I think he wants to get some retribution himself for, like you said, his eye looking like old Two-Face in the Dark Knight. But we also get introduced to another character. And this is an interesting cat. His name's James Bagwell, and he's a parole officer. And we don't really know him at first in this scene, but he just shows up at this apartment, and we have a tattooed man having sex with a woman, and he basically says, you're not coming to your parole meetings. And he goes, no, like I was busy and I'm doing this. And Bagwell has a thing. You're either an eagle, which means you soar when you get out of jail and you do good things, or you're a shitbird. And Spike was the basically definition of a shitbird.
Yeah. And just to give some context about this guy, he played his own motivational speaking in his car before he got to this location. Kind of like a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson type, where, easily motivated, looking to make. But his thing with parole, he really is trying to rehabilitate the guys he gets, not just so that they slide by, but that they're a better version of themselves. And that's kind of his whole motto throughout this. So yeah, he basically taps this guy, gives him to the cops. He gets back to his car, Dougie, and who's the next face on his list?
It would be Marious, and we see that he calls Marious soon after, and he tells him, meet me at my office, or basically you're getting locked up. Like, you haven't shown up to any of your meetings. Like, you got it. Either, hey, you're an eagle or a shitbird. So get your ass here. And Marious kind of has to scramble because he thinks he can get to that parole meeting, but he's also got a busy day ahead of him.
Yeah, we see, he's going into work, like we've mentioned in the last episode about Sneaky Pete. He's really trying to get into the family ropes, but he's also trying to get in the grooves of the family, because we know that he needs to get the combination to the safe, get the money, basically give it to Vince, so that basically Vince will release his brother. So that's what he's got going on right now. So just another kind of wrench with this parole meeting that he's got to go to that kind of interferes with that.
Yeah. So when he gets to work, we learn that their family is in kind of a war of sorts, or a battle with another bail bond business, A&B, which is basically a big conglomerate that has scooped up all the small family-owned businesses in the area. They used to be on good terms with the family, but they've taken out businesses. They're not exactly good people, and the family's losing money. They're really starting to worry, and grandma's kind of hiding this in a sense from the rest of the family.
Yeah. There's a couple times in this episode and the next, we see that she's almost making these phone calls, these mysterious phone calls to people, and we don't really know a whole lot about what it's about, but we can almost assume that it has something to do with this kind of inner war between bail bonds, these companies. Mm-hmm. So I think solely after this, finally they get a ticket, and it's going to be Audrey and Marious this time, or Pete, instead of Julia and Marious. And this is kind of a neat interaction that they get to hold. Even on the way there, Marious says, "Oh, this should be fine. I just have to make my meeting with my last employer for 2 p.m., which we know as Mr. Success, as he's called. And Audrey says, "Oh, that's fine. I know these people will have this wrapped up in a matter of no time, and you'll be on your way."
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So he's kind of there, but it's going longer than he thought, because they want to get their son out of jail, but this family clearly has no money, because she can't make the minimum deposit, and she's looking around. She goes, "Well, I'll put the house on it." She goes, "Well, you already got a second mortgage. The bank owns the house, so that doesn't work." And I haven't figured this out if it was real or not. I think it's a con, but Marious goes, is that a Vera Wayne clock? Yeah, I don't know. He goes, "Well, the real ones are when you have the little insignia on the bottom." And he lifts it up, and he goes, "Oh," and he goes, "Wow." He goes, that's at least, that's close to a $20,000 clock. And they're like, "Well, that'd be the down payment. We'll just put it in the safe, and if everything goes well, we get our pay, we'll give it back to you after." And to me, Shay, it was a way for him to get out of there, because he knew he had to get to his parole meeting. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of a greasy move, because he's really conning the business out of 20 grand, because there's no way that's a real clock or worth that much. But he does a great job of lying, making it look real, and basically getting himself out so that he can make this meeting. So basically, they're driving back. They say, "Oh, this is great. We'll put this in here, and we'll just go. Well, you know what? Why don't we stop for dinner? Screw your employer. You don't need them anymore. You don't need this last check." And now Marious has basically got to find a way to lie to Audrey in order to get into the city.
Right. So he's like, I gotta get there. Like, it's today only. And she goes, "Well, let's just call them up. Like, they'll understand." And he goes, "No, I don't think we should do that." But she goes, "No, do it." And he's going to call, And he calls Katie, his ex-girlfriend, who he cheated on, but they still are on good terms. And she goes, no, just put it on speaker. And basically Audrey, aka Grandma, is just like, oh hey, yeah, this is Pete's this is Pete's grandmother. Yeah, like I really want to go to lunch with him. He's kind of busy today working. Could you just send me his check? And Katie's just on the other end, basically forced to sit there and be like, I guess. I mean, it's not great protocol, but she kind of has to bumble her way into things.
Yeah, we see this is not the first time in this next couple episodes that Katie really bails Pete out in a big way at the end of this one. But yeah, sure enough, now he has no excuse, so he basically has to go to dinner with his grandmother, I say in quotation marks, and he's got to find a way to basically postpone his meeting with Mr. Success. So he gets there, but the entire time they're driving along, Juggy, they're being followed by a silver car. And, in the back of our mind, we're thinking, well, this is Officer Winslow, the guy, we'll call him the one-eyed bandit. He's following them around. He is trying to get Pete. But when they're at the diner, we soon find out that it's someone we totally don't expect.
Yeah, this one came out of left field for me, because it's the grandfather. He's in the back seat with the driver in front. He's just kind of tailing clearly, and we did see this at breakfast in a scene earlier in the episode. Audrey doesn't tell him very much because he doesn't go into work. He's had a heart attack. It's always talked about he can't work. And I think he's a little worried about the business, which rightly so, for good reason. But she doesn't tell him anything, and he doesn't get anything from her. He also saw that she had made calls to the man that tailed Marious in the first episode, which raised an eyebrow for him. So he doesn't fully trust his wife.
No, and there's some shady stuff going on behind closed doors that I don't even think we were fully know quite yet.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. It kind of it leaves a little to be excited for, in the fact that we don't know the full story just yet, right, between what's going on with the business and also with this old grouchy married couple. Right. But sure enough, Marious hits the bathroom and he calls the parole the parole office, and he gets this woman. He says, he pretends he has a kid in the bathroom, which is so low. And he's like, oh, honey, just hold on. I have to talk to this lady. And he basically he pushes his parole meeting back by faking that they have a hit. Was it a hit cat or a hit dog?
Yeah, a dog got hit by a car.
Yeah, a dog got hit by. Oh, we're here with the vet. Can we just push it back? And of course, gaining this lady's sympathy, she says, yeah, no problem. We'll say 4:30. Yeah, and Mr. Success has room at 4:30 today. But this is overheard by another gentleman, which we find out later on works for one Vince. So he's got men everywhere, we find out.
Yeah, he's got eyes and ears everywhere. He's just kind of sitting by her desk, and he kind of says, was that Marious? And she goes, yeah, he's going to be here at 4:30. So he's aware. He knows where he's going to be. So that's a big tell for him. But there's also this scene where Grandma is suspicious. She's a very suspicious person. And she's asking, like, how'd you know to come back? Or why did you come back? And again, he's a great liar. He goes, to be honest, Grandma, I saw Julia's Facebook posts and I saw Grandpa had a stroke, and I just missed you guys. And I missed a lot of my growing up. I wasn't around, and I just wanted to come back and help the family any way I could, because like you said, that's what you do for family. And she even gets a big smile. She starts to tear up, and he fakes tears and goes back to the bathroom. But again, it's a good con because she's bought in hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, she throughout the whole episode, and especially with a lot going on with this fake employer that he's got, she's very suspicious because she just comes out and says it. She says, with the business going down, your grandfather having a stroke, I can't help but think that you're in it. You're in it for the cash. You're in it here to get the money and leave us as soon as you do. And he's got to fake that in the moment because that's actually what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But he does a great job of kind of leading her astray and, keeping it to the point that I'm about family. I'm a Dom Toretto kind of guy. It's all family for me.
Oh, that was a tough reference. I hate that person. But we'll save that for the Fast 24 recap. So they get back. Julia's there. She's kind of like, "Oh, how'd it go?" She goes, "Oh, it was good. Pete's like, "Yeah, it went well. It's going well. It's good." And she goes, "Can you come with me for a walk? I got to get groceries." And he goes with her. And she's like, "Yeah, they're talking." She goes, "Yeah, you were really a jerk to me back in the day. Like you weren't a great person." He goes, "Oh yeah, I was an idiot back then." So she says, "I got to go in for cigs." And he's kind of like, "Okay, whatever." He's on the street. And before he knows it, he's tossed, he's bagged and thrown in the back of a trunk. And all you can think at this point is the one-eyed bandit's got him.
Yeah. I thought it was him, or maybe even the grandfather and the goon that the grandpa has.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
they grabbed them just because, But yeah, that's you're thinking that's it. Like that they got him now. And I'm trying to think what happens. Tries to read. You call. Carly. This is an interesting scene. Carly, we find out she's been a pickpocket. She's the younger sister of Taylor and Julia.
Yeah.
And what does she do? She gets home. No one's home. I'll go look in Pete's room. So she takes a little walk in there, and what does she find? She finds extra cash. And she probably takes about $300 and doesn't think anything of it, puts it back. And that's kind of the scene, but we'll kind of get back into that later because I think that's important for their relationship between Carly and Marious.
Right. Yeah. She's very much like him, even though they're not related, which is fun. Exactly. So he's in the trunk. He's thinking, "Okay, I'm dead. Like I'm done. Like the jig is up." For reference, he has his ID with him because he didn't want to keep it in the room, and he also has to go to the parole meeting. So that's come about. So he's has the trunks being open. He's yelling, "Vince." He's yelling, "Vince, don't, Vince, don't." And the bag comes over its head, and it's Taylor, his cousin. The police officer has thrown him into a trunk, and he's freaking out, screaming at him, basically trying to hit him. And he goes, "It's a joke. It's a joke. Julia put me up to it." And basically he's like, "Who the hell is Vince? Like you were screaming Vince the whole time." And quick on his feet, he goes, it's my girlfriend's husband."
Which really aligns with what Audrey knows about, she had someone tailed and that's what he was told as well. He was sleeping with a married woman. Mm-hmm. So he's married, I know. And he's like, "Oh, I got to get to this, I got to get to the city, soon. And, you got to drive me back." Sure enough, Taylor does. And, it's actually looking like, Marious might actually make this meeting besides defining all odds. I think it's important to note that Eddie, this entire episode really has been being captive by Richard, which is basically Vince's right-hand man. Yeah. If we remember Eddie in the last couple episodes, he tried to escape and broke his nose. Was basically torn apart by, Hush Puppy, the lovely dog of Richard. Yeah. And, it's at this point that Richard, he's like, "I got to take Hush Puppy out for a leak." And he ties Eddie up in basically I don't know, ties his hands behind his back and his feet together and says, you're not going anywhere again. Eddie does get away, and he's able to get to the rooftop where he makes the phone to his brother. Yeah, so he takes Richard's phone and he calls, but what's interesting is he goes Marious, they don't know where you are, but they're looking for you like crazy, but I need to get out of here. And he goes, no, you can't. And he goes, "Well, why?" "Because I'm so close on the money. We'll be free. You stay, I'll come free you. There's no more debt. Our worries are over." And it does make sense.
because Eddie escaping is a short-term gain, but it's a long-term problem because then both guys are on the run and you're on the run for the rest of your life with this guy, Vince, who's very rich and he has many different avenues to catch Marious and Eddie. So it's a terrible position for Eddie because he has to stay with this huge, scary Richard and Vince, who's unpredictable. But Marius's logic, despite him having the money or even being that close to getting the money in the moment, makes long-term sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, unfortunately, this the first time Eddie really gets a free chance, but they play it safe, and we'll touch back at this later at the end of the second episode named the Fury, but Eddie basically brushes it off. He goes back and pretends he was using the bathroom. Richard walks in. He's like, "What the hell?" It's like, I didn't want to shit on your sofa, which totally makes sense. But it's at this point that Officer Winslow he's in the police station, and who's he meet at the very front desk but Taylor, who's just getting back from dropping Marious off. And this whole time he's been walking around flashing Marious's basically face around saying, "Have you seen this guy? Have you seen this guy? I'm looking for him." And right before he does, what do we find out? Vince calls him and basically says, "You got to get back here. Marious is going to be here at 4:30 at the parole office, and you got a chance to get him." So almost gives his real idea away to the close family member, but manages to squeak away. Right.
So Marious gets to the city. He's walking around the corner, but right in front of the parole, right in front of the government office is, of course, One-Eyed Bandit and our new friend. And they spot Marious. So he just starts running. And he runs for a while. They're looking for him. But to his credit, he goes down this little staircase. It's like you open a gate and it's like these downward stairs into an apartment or into an abandoned alley. They're looking for him, talking, and he's on the phone. With the wherewithal on the phone, he's calling Mr. Success, aka James Bagwell, to say, I'm sick. Like, I don't want to get anybody sick. I'm really not feeling well. But Mr. Success is not buying it.
Yeah, he basically said, "Oh, you take your time and call me back tomorrow, Mr. Jokovic," or I can't pronounce his last name. He's like, we'll be in touch. But little do we know, he's got other plans. He's going to basically address on file, and he's basically going to catch him in the act. This is gross, but Marious basically says, his address is Katie's house, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is not going to work." So next thing you know, Mr. Success rings the door open. There's the lovely family, and he's like, "Is Marious here?" "Who?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, him." And sure enough, Marious managed to get his ass all the way to this White Plains, I think they're in, and he's basically faking being asleep, and it works, and kind of buys him some time with this new character that's kind of all over him, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, he's more all over him than Vince's men. Like, he has a better hold on Marious because he knows where he should be, and
exactly.
They're not privy to that information. So, and we see in the episode that the One-Eyed Bandit tried to get information from Mr. Bagwell. He tried to say, like, where does he live? Like, you just tell me I'm a cop. Like, I'm doing it for a case. And he goes, no. Doesn't work that way. Like, you get a warrant or basically piss off. Bagwell, like you said, he wants his people coming out of jail, these inmates, to soar, to be positive stories, to get jobs, to be successes. And he could clearly tell that the One-Eyed Bandit was not a good cop. He had bad intentions, and credit to him, he thinks that Marious is a shitbird, but he still didn't give up his spot.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it's Marious basically gets off scot-free. I shouldn't say scot-free, but for this episode, the premise of it was making this meeting, and he wasn't able to make it, but at the same sense, he was able to basically avoid getting in trouble with this parole officer. The meeting or the episode really ends with Marious getting back to the Bonds shop meeting Julia outside, basically confronting her, basically saying, you set Taylor up to pick me up in the middle of the street. What the hell was that? Find out that the real Pete Murphy was not really a great, I would say, younger person.
No.
Locked Julia away in the safe, and basically left her there for a couple hours. And Marious goes, well, who got you out of there? Someone had to unlock it for you. And we find out the grandfather also, along with Audrey, knows the combination to the safe.
Right. So this is a good moment for Pete, because he goes, okay, there's more than one person. I don't have to try to fool grandma, because she is really clever and she's not going to fall that easy. Grandpa's more trusting. He's more of a idiot, if you'd say. So we do see at the end of the episode, it's kind of this funny scene where he gets Carly to come to his room and he's talking to her and he goes, I know we had a bad start. I really wanted to connect, but I want you to be taken care of. And he hands her a couple $100 in cash. And he goes, she goes, oh, thanks so much. Like, that's great. And she gets back to her room and she's so pumped, thinking like, okay, I made $500 today. But we see she opens up her pouch and the money that she took originally is gone. And he pickpocketed her. He knew that she took the money, and he was basically teaching her a lesson. Like, don't do that shit to me.
Yeah, it is. It kind of comes in full circle. And, it's cool to see that scene first, and then you go back and see how Marious does it, because he's got this sleight of hand where he just kind of picks things off people without with pretty much ease. But yeah, no, like you said, like inside the relationship, clearly, now Pete doesn't really trust Carly all that much, and how could you? She stole from him.
Stole from you, yeah. So that scene goes down. He kind of hides his money again. And we see the back of Taylor's car, and Marius's ID is back there, and it's right in the open. So it's kind of this scene where he doesn't know it's there right away, and it's right there. If Taylor goes in the car, it's going to be trouble for Marious.
Yeah, sets up the second part of our podcast really well. Labeled The Fury, and the premises of this one, kind of like the last one, the theme of it would be his real ID is in the back of his cousin's car. If it gets caught, his ID is blown and he's got no way of getting this cash, and more importantly, they'll probably front him for being a con man and whatever else. So this episode's interesting start. This good looking woman gets pulled over. I think, man. And sure enough, it's Taylor. And next thing you know, they're making sweet love in the back, all normal young people do. And interesting here, they say, he mentions being able to move it to the bedroom, but you quickly get the gist that this woman may be with somebody else.
Yeah, it's kind of revealed that she's married and that they've done this dirty deed a time or two in the car, and kind of this sting. And Taylor, no wonder he wasn't really judging Marious for sleeping with a married woman, because he's doing the same thing himself. So yeah, Taylor is not exactly the perfect human being by any means, but this woman's there. She leaves her phone in the car, so he's kind of like shit when she's gone. But he goes and he starts cleaning, he's vacuuming, cleaning the car, and he's in the trunk. And luckily there's a tire back there, because Marius's ID is sitting there, and he's vacuuming. He's getting very close, but before he can lift the tire and look and see, Marious gives him a call and says, hey, like, I feel bad about what I said when you threw me in the trunk. Can I bring you out for a beer?
Yeah, really Saved by the Bell again. And sure enough, they meet out, and he's thinking, I gotta get in the back of his trunk somehow. And it's kind of that you're basically typical hometown bar. You got some shitbirds, quoting Mr. Bagwell outside smoking pot, and Taylor kind of gives them the okay and goes inside, and they basically says sorry. He explains the situation with the married woman. A funny thing that Taylor says is basically like, oh, it's hard to get into the mind of somebody. And Marious just kind of gives him this look like, yeah, I know. One thing Taylor also says that goes perfectly with the scene that shortly happens after is he goes, he can't control. He can't control, or he has an impulsive control, which basically means he acts without thinking, which is a big theme coming up in the next scene.
Very much so. You see this a lot in, people that have schizophrenia, or, you think of Ben Davis in Ozark. I think you've watched season 3, right?
Oh, I'm caught up. Season 4 out now.
Oh, really? This weekend. That's my.
No, it's already out.
I know, but that's my class project this weekend.
No
sports.
You're not gonna watch the Pro Bowl. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So he's like an alpha. He's all like an alpha male too. So you get a guy in a bar, a couple drinks. He's big man on campus, throw a left. But so they're going out. Taylor's gonna drive, which is beyond puzzling. The guy's clearly buckled. He's a cop. And he goes, no, I'm good to drive. But Marious is like, I got to get in that trunk. How am I going to get there? So he's got a knife in his pocket, puts a big hole through the tire, pulls a knife out. He goes, Taylor, you got a flat. And he goes, well, it must have been a nail or something to drive over. Taylor, to his credit, not an idiot. He goes, no, that's too big a hole for a nail. That's a knife. And like you said, there's these 3 kind of stoners hanging out by the car, shooting the breeze, and Taylor basically accuses them of putting a knife in the tire, giving them a flat.
Yeah, they get into a little confrontation, and one thing leads to another, and back to impulsive control. Taylor is on top of this guy. He's wailing away at him. He tries to stop. He gets hit himself. And, it takes a bigger guy to come out and kind of pull Taylor off. And I mean, this kid, we'll say, can't be more than 20, right, Joey? Yeah. I mean, he's, I'd be surprised.
In the States, he's for sure a minor.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's a drunk cop, like you said, beating the hell out of this kid who, Marious has got to feel somewhat bad because he probably didn't intend for that to happen, but it is his fault by having slashing the tire. And I mean, here's another situation on his hands. Yeah,
so he's like, you see that there's this cop that's kind of on Taylor's side. He's kind of the head honcho, and he goes, yeah, no, you can't drive that car home. Nobody's touching that car. Like, they're bringing that one into impound. Just have a story ready. Say the guy attacked you first. Pete's got a bruise, so you can use that to your advantage. But have your story ready, and both of you have the same one. And Pete's like, well, can I there's something in the car that I need. I could drive it. Like, it's no big deal. And he goes, no, nobody's touching the car. And we see it's taken into custody. And, Pete's basically just told to go to the station so that, no suspicion arise from this.
Yeah, so he's looking out the window. He's looking at the car like how the hell am I going to get this now? It's it's an impound. If anyone doesn't know, it's surrounded by barbed wire fence, and on top of that, it's probably guarded. So his job just became 30 times more than what it had to be. And he's not much he can do. He says, Taylor says, okay, well, what's our story going to be? Okay, we got drunk. Next thing you know, we were wrestling. We beat up each other. Marious goes, okay. So there's not a ton he can do. So all he really can do at this point is basically go home, get his stuff, and go to work, which he's supposed to be doing. Right.
So for him, go to work is he thinks there's money in the safe. So he goes, well, grandma's not going to be in the office. Grandpa's going to. So he gets Katie. Again, Katie's just like his personal slave to set up a con. He basically tells her to go in, set up a bond for Colin James III, who was at the top arrest warrant for the day before. So he was just arrested. He's top of the list. It'll make sense. It's a good story. And he gave her a necklace for collateral so that he has to open the safe. and so that you have to see them put it in there. That's the rule of the family. While this is happening, Katie is going to fake having like an aneurysm, and then Marious will swoop in, steal the money from the safe, and Bob's your uncle, and they'll be out before Grandpa knows what hit them.
Yeah, great plan. So sure enough, they're in there, and everything's checks out. But our good old Grampy's trying to go. Mind you, this man had a stroke not long ago, so he's his hands don't work as good as they used to.
Yeah.
And he can't open the safe. And basically the whole purpose of this couldn't happen. So she's got to basically pretend like, oh, I'm not going to go here. I can't even pay for my bond. And Marious follows out. Marious, mind you, also promised her $10K no matter what, even if it wasn't this safe. Said, I'll give you $10K no matter how it happens. And he's basically back to square zero. He walks in, he's pretty pissed. My grandfather's pretty pissed because he's like, I know I didn't get it wrong. There must be something wrong with the safe. And he goes, do you know how to crack one? And Marious's eyes light up like I'm basically a kid on 4th of July, because you realize you can get into the safe now and you just need somebody to do it.
Right. So yeah, he's like, yeah, I think I do know. So I know a good company, Grandpa. I used it in the insurance business. And he goes, okay, cool. So he calls up his friend Hector, and he goes like, you owe me one, like get over here. You need to get over here and open this up for me. And he goes, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like I'll come over. Yeah, whatever. So Marious is there, safe crackers, about ready to open it. And Grandpa's sitting there. They're going to have the same type plan, because it's going to be, this guy's going to fake an injury or something as well. Yeah. But before they can open it, Marious is like at the edge of his seat, just sitting there like with a bag of chips, just like eating it up. But then in comes Taylor's boss, and he goes, yeah, I need you to come with me. And he goes, does it have to be right now? Like, can I drive over in 20 minutes? And he goes, no, like it's got to be now. And the safecracker's just looking at Marious like, what do you want me to do? And he basically, without saying it, basically says like, come up with an excuse. Don't figure it out until I get back here.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got a stall. It's funny when he gets there and he's got a bunch of shit around the safe, probably unnecessary. And he goes, and Taylor's all in a panic. He says, he basically confesses to Pete and saying, I'm with a married woman, and her car is currently in my vehicle, and I need you to get it out somehow. And Pete's just like, you want me to go into your vehicle and get something, which is conveniently just what he needs to do at this point in time.
Right. So before he knows that the phone's in the dash, doesn't go there first. The cop's at the gate, doesn't really pay attention. He goes in the trunk, gets the ID, finds it, puts it in his pocket. Then he gets the phone, goes back in. So somehow Taylor gets away with this. And I guess it kind of tells you that this Bridgeport police are not very good at their job.
Yeah.
And they protect their own, because he should be off the force and be given at least an assault charge.
Yeah. Very, very small townish of something like this to get kind of swept under the rug. But we also know, we know whoever Taylor's mistress is married to has quite the connection with the town itself, and also, of course, the police force, because that's kind of why Pete was brought in to do this. It wasn't just because it has to be Pete, because everyone else knows, basically everyone else knows this girl, and Taylor just can't have anybody going into his vehicle. Yeah,
and he was very scared too. He kind of said like, they're gonna fucking kill me. So he wasn't, was quite concerned. Through all this, Pete gets back. It's been over an hour. Safecracker's still there, and Grandpa's like, we can't figure it out. He's still sitting there, and they're like talking the whole time. And he goes, oh, I think that's lever. I didn't pull it. Maybe it'll work. And somehow he goes, oh, we did it. Grandpa's none the wiser. Just like, great. So finally opens. Moment of truth. Marious sitting there, big eyes, staring at the safe. Empty.
Yeah. grandfather goes, the grandfather basically goes, pulls it open. Meanwhile, the safe cracker is like about to pull a fake seizure, and then Marious like, oh no, don't do that. And yeah, all the cash is gone, and they're both kind of just sitting there dumbfounded, like, well, what the hell happened? And part of me thinks that the grandfather wanted in the safe because he has his own suspicions about what's going on with Audrey, the grandmother. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I think he was also pissed off that the combination was changed, clearly, because I don't think he couldn't get into it just because of strength. I think that was definitely part of it. But she changed the combination because I think this pissed him off too. So he goes, well, what's in there, or lack thereof? We just learned that I can't even get into a safe that basically half of that is his. I mean, they're married. If you get divorced, it's half goes to each. And well, maybe he'd lose half. Usually goes to the women. But I think he's a little pissed because he's basically, everybody sees him as a nuisance. He's had a heart attack and he's not what he used to be and he can't work. And nobody wants to be seen as a liability or, not what they used to be. And he's very much bottom end of the totem pole of this family.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. He's really, his role so far has been babysitter to Julia's kids, look after them, and basically don't get yourself wound up. The poor guy can't even get laid because he might get the heart rate too pumped up, according to his wife. And on a side note that's going on with the family as well, there's kind of this aura around what happened to the family. Why did Pete's mom leave? And I feel like this is going to come to play later into the show. And earlier Carly kind of grills Pete, saying, why weren't you around? What happened? What did your mom tell you? And Pete just basically, because he doesn't know, just goes, my mom didn't tell me anything, whatever. We later find out that Pete's mom and Julia, Carly's mom, they sent letters to each other kind of after they left. And we find out that, Pete's mom was did tell him what was going on. So kind of catches Marious in a lie that he didn't even know about. But I think that's going to come into play in the next few episodes. But there's clearly some traumatic family history that we don't quite know just yet.
Right. And Carly is super intuitive and she's super curious. So she's going to use this against him after he just pulled one over on her. And I think, I wouldn't say she's suspicious of him, but she's kind of pissed off because he's just back in the family. He's pulled one over on her and she likes to figure things out, and she's smart too. So yeah, I think that I totally agree. I think that's going to play a big role down the line here as the episodes go on, and maybe even potentially Pete's mother makes a reappearance, to the family. Who knows? That's just an early prediction. But the back half of this episode, really the last 10 to 12 minutes, it's all focused on Vince and Eddie in particular. But we didn't know a whole lot about Vince before. We know he's got money. We know he's got obviously people on his payroll. We can assume he's not a very good person. He killed the con man that was with Marious.
Yeah, we also know. Sorry to butt in there. That we also know that he basically runs an illegal poker operation.
Yes,
and that's like kind of his revenue money, and he gets high stake rollers kind of coming in and out. We see one in the beginning of this episode, but it seems like he's always got his hands into somebody else's pockets. So that's just kind of his revenue scheme. But yeah, on top of that, he's also a dirtbag from what we can tell.
Yeah, and it's funny because obviously the woman that was working for Marious, who he now you can assume is sleeping with, or at least I'd be surprised if they haven't at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The men at the poker games like her quite a bit, and it's funny to kind of see him interact with these clients, because I'm not sure if they know that she's with him, but he kind of lets her flirt with them, but he doesn't let it go farther than that.
Yeah, exactly.
So Eddie gets there. He's still beat up. His nose is wrecked and his shoulders all beat up. And he goes, yeah, well, I heard you tried to escape. And he goes, oh, yeah, but I came back. Like, yeah, but he goes, yeah, but we know because of Richard's neighbor that you made a phone call. You called Marious. Like, you know his number. You know where he is. He goes, no, I don't. And he goes, okay, well, let me tell you a story. And he kind of lets us know that he was a cop at one point. He used to be a police officer. And there was this troubled kid who was always breaking the law. And Vince he felt for him, and he give him breaks. Him and his partner would give him break after break after break. And at one point he kept breaking the law, and they had the opportunity to send this kid a message. They had him pinned to the ground. His partner, Larry, had him pinned to the ground. And he said, Vince, jump on his elbow. And you can imagine the pain this would cause, because they kind of say, you jump on a person's elbow, their arm will never be the same. Either shoulder like
you
that.
Could lose the arm,
you could lose the arm. It'll never be the same. And it's very gruesome. It would change his life forever, but Vince was never going to do it. He never really considered it. But they're hoping, I think in his brain, Shay, correct me if I'm wrong, he was thinking the thought will put some fear into this kid so that he stops breaking the law and gets on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but they let him go. But down the line, there's probably 7-8 years later, and Larry picks him up, and they learn that a cop has been killed. And obviously, this is when a cop is killed, the brothers and the boys in blue take this personally. It's a difficult day, but they drive. They go to the Bronx, and they go in the outskirts, and Vince is like, well, where the hell are we going? And they pull up, and all these cops are there, and they're near a pit. And it looks like it's basically a grave that's been dug. And the cops are surrounding a man. A guy's kneeling, beaten to a pulp. You could hardly even recognize what this guy used to look like. But Vince gets there, and he realizes it's the kid that he let go 7-8 years earlier. The man that he didn't hurt, that he let get away with the crime, he killed the police officer. And Larry says, you broke it, you bought it. Meaning, you caused this, you put it to bed. You end the problem. And throughout all of this, Eddie is basically sobbing uncontrollably, because I think in his brain, he's thinking, I'm about to be killed.
Yeah. They make it seem they have those, in some movies, they lay out those mats and they tape it down so that no blood gets on the floor. They've got one of those out. Everyone kind of looking concerned. I forget her name. Vince's woman is there. She's basically sobbing herself. She's got a look of concern. And, I think what's important is like, okay, Vince had to put this kid down and bury the gun with him. And, next thing you know, they're taking off Eddie's shoe, and he gives the pliers, if you want to call them, to Richard. It says, you broke it, you buy it.
Yeah.
And it's at this time he makes one phone call to brother Marious.
And Marious is completely panicked because he doesn't have any of the money yet. He's at a dead end, and he goes, I'm close. Like, he tells Vince, I'm close. I'll be there with the money soon. And he goes, like, no, Marious, I don't trust you. You need some motivation to get this money, basically. And like you said, Richard, who's a strong black man, did not want to do this. He really struggled with it. Eddie's a hard guy not to like, because he's stupid, and he's like, he means no harm in a sense, because he's not Marious. He's not clever. He not a great con, because you would see through it. You'd see through the lie. But, I think Richard probably thought he came back. He could have left. He came back. But through all of this, Marious pleading with Vince, don't do this. Like, I'm coming. But Richard takes the pliers and rips off one of Eddie's toes.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of this, Marious is listening the whole time. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like an FU.
Insult to injury.
Yeah. And what's worse, Juggy, is Marious probably thought he had a week to get this done. And his week is not even up. So they're really
4
taking
days,
this.
I think, right, Shay?
Yeah.
4 days.
Yeah. He's taken this prematurely. And, I think it's a message to, all three. If you think about it, it's a message to Marious, Eddie, and Richard.
And
Richard,
yeah.
you almost let him escape twice. Don't let this happen again, or this might be you.
Right.
Eddie, don't escape, or you'll lose something else. And then Marious, get my effing money. So Vince really making a bold, a brass statement by removing, a poor pinky toe.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine what that was like for poor Eddie, but that's really how the episode ends. We don't know. Obviously, Marious has got the message loud and clear now. If you don't get the money, this is what's going to happen. This is what the repercussions to your actions. And he has no money at this point. He has no idea where they keep any of the items that they keep for collateral, if there is any money. So he's at a complete dead end. And there's still a lot of questions with grandma and grandpa, what happens there. Obviously, Taylor's got a bit of a history that I think we're still going to learn more about. You mentioned Carly having the news about, Marious and Pete knowing why they left, which he denied. So a lot to figure out here over the next couple episodes. But I think the show's been really good so far. As I'm looking forward to next week's episodes.
Yeah. It has a little bit of everything. It's obviously got a little bit of humor in the way it's plotted out. The characters itself, I thought, some of them, especially Taylor, he's just kind of this big dumb idiot, like we mentioned. But obviously he's got levels. He's like an onion. If we were quoting Shrek, we found out he's got a bad temper in the last episode. We found out, he's not afraid to get down and dirty, and so many great things to get into. And like you said, there's so many storylines which I just find so interesting. Like everything, like you just mentioned, like digging up the past into their family history. How is Marious gonna save his brother, and more importantly, like what's gonna happen with this business that seems to be going down the drain, and no one really knows why except for Audrey.
Right. And she holds a lot of the secrets of this show. So interesting.
Yeah, she has a lot of cards, I feel like, and she's yet to play them. So I think she's a key factor moving forward.
Absolutely. And we'll get back into episodes 5 and 6 next week. Anything you've been watching lately, Shay, other than obviously Sneaky Pete that's caught your eye? Any movies, shows that you've watched lately?
Well, funny enough, over the weekend, Caught in the Storm, I actually put on a movie, and our very own, Giovanni Ribisi was in it, and that's Saving Private Ryan. I never watched it full front to back, and I know I always just watched bits here and there, and wow. I said, I'll watch. I've never watched it to and from, and I said, hey, I'll sit down for 3 hours and watch a great war flick. So yeah, that was my weekend, but no, great movie. I hope that what's that?
Pretty good movie.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Tom Hanks special, so it's not he's going to put it out there. And his last couple movies are a little questionable, but that's all good. But no, other than that, I did have a question for you. I was watching TV last night, and a new movie popped up, and I wanted to know if this is a yay or nay, just based off the trailer. Okay. Peter Dinklage. I know Peter Dinklage is, he's kind of your boy throughout the Game of Thrones series, and he's starring in his own little flick with Jennifer Lawrence in what seems to be kind of like I don't even know it's like a Four Musketeers type movie where he's kind of the main character, and he's trying to it's based off that time period, medieval times. And anyways, it looks interesting, but it also kind of got spots written all over it. So, a guy like that who you like, would that be worth even looking into for you, or will you take one look at that and be like, this could be?
I'll have to watch the trailer, which I will tonight, and I'll have to read up on some reviews. Like I love Dinklage, and I think Jennifer Lawrence is a really good actress as well.
Yes.
But The plot sounds weird, I will admit.
Yeah. Maybe I wasn't paying full attention to it, but it'd be something to look into if I were you. I don't think it's out yet, but when I do think it hits theaters, it'd be interesting to see if it's a flop or a bust.
Yeah.
What about you? What I know, lots of NFL Sunday, but anything else you've been getting into show wise?
I watched the latest, and it's probably a decade old now, but I hadn't seen it. I watched Jason Bourne, the newest one.
Oh yeah.
I had never seen it, and it's pretty good. I was okay. It was a Bourne flick. Like, you know, you're not in it to win an Academy Award, you know, but
No.
it kills a couple hours, and see some people fight and things like that. So it was okay. And I watched that Sean Payton home team movie as well.
Home team movie. I
Kevin
don't think I followed.
Kevin James is Sean Payton when he was suspended for a year because of Bountygate. When the defensive coordinator for the Saints basically gave players extra money to try to go out and hurt players. One of them being Brett Favre. Sean Payton.
Was it good?
No. But
oh no, okay.
No, it's a Happy Madison. That's what I'd say. Like it's
kind of like a funny flick. All right.
Yeah, but it's not really that funny. So it was okay. It killed an hour and a half.
It's kind of like SNL. It's just gone. Humor's just gone down the drain.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, unfortunately for SNL, it's bad when Peyton Manning's skits are considered the funniest of the night. So that's where SNL is gone when it comes to their funny meter. But I know this is a busy time of year for you, so you locked in on the computer the rest of the week.
Yes, yeah, it'll be a busy time right till this weekend, but we got another storm coming, which consistent. I'll give them that every storm every weekend. So I'm sure I'll be doing something else, but maybe get outdoors, do a little snowshoeing or something like that. What about you? What do you got planned for the rest of the week?
Yeah, so work and obviously podcasting. There's hockey next 2 nights, and then gets a little thin on the sports front. Basketball.
You're telling me you're not gonna watch these All-Star games?
No, I'll not watch 1 second of it. So that's this weekend. There's a UFC card. I'm gonna watch that and watch some basketball. But in the meantime, I'm gonna be binging Ozark and can't wait to get into that. I think there's 7 episodes. So
are you one of those guys, if you really like something, you'll save it and kind of watch it all together? I do that once in a while too. That's kind of what I almost turned it on one night, but then I was like, I'd rather watch 3 or 4 than watch one or one.
Yeah, like when I started, I'll watch 4 for sure. Like I'll just go through 4 quick and then save 3 for the next day. But yeah, I knew this was the All-Star weekend, and I said when it came out, I'm like, I want to watch it this day. But I said, no, I'm going to wait. So when there's nothing on, I have a great show to dive into. So interested to see what's up with Darlene and all the cast of characters there on Ozark, because I think it's a phenomenal show, and I'm looking forward to what they've come up with for the 4th and final season.
Yeah, absolutely. Also noted, are you happy the gyms are back open?
My God, am I? It was getting really pathetic walking around the dollar store at 5 a.m. I'll tell you that. It was not.
You would do that? You'd walk around, you'd just scoop the store over and over?
I did every day last week.
Whew. I commend you, brother. You got more dedication than probably most people I know.
Yeah, I had to do something. I was up, and I had to get some exercise, and I had to get my steps. But no, it's good. The old treadmill missed me, and just working to keep it going, man. Hopefully they keep them open now and smooth sailing. Positive 2022 now. It's February. January sucked. We're onward and upward now, but great show tonight, man. Always good to talk to you, and we'll be back at it a week from today.
Chat to you soon.
Everybody have a great night. Enjoy the sports, and we'll be back tomorrow. We'll chat then.